Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Trader Minute. It's great to have you aboard. I'm Carl, and thanks for tuning in this morning. We're going on the second class of our education week, and this class is going to be on options basics. So just the basics of calls and puts, and some of the things that you're going to be hearing us talk about here at Trader Minute. All right, so let's get right into it. Options were invented way back in the 70s. Back then, they were very risky because once you got in, you weren't always able to sell it at the price you thought you could, so the government stepped up, set up some rules and regulations to help make it safer. But really, the private sector kicked in, and a couple of guys by the name of Myron Black and Fisher Sholes came along, and they invented what's called the Black-Scholes model. It's a Nobel Prize winning equation which virtually created the options marketplace to what it is today. All right, that formula is used to price options. Before that, there was no fair and consistent way to price options. Now, not every stock is optionable. Sometimes you're going to come across a stock and you can't trade options on it, and that is due to the company themselves. They have to go in and get that process started to be able to have options traded on them. Okay, most of the big ones are going to have options available to trade. Now, with options, there's just two parts: calls and puts. Pretty simple. You buy a call when you believe the stock price is going to go up. You buy a put when you believe the stock price is going to go down. Okay, you're looking at a chart of the stock. If the chart's telling you the stock's going to go up in price, go buy a call. If the chart's telling you the stock is going to go down in price, then go buy a put. And I keep emphasizing buy a put because that's what you do. And we'll get into that a little bit more in just a minute. So a call is the right, but not the obligation, to sell a stock at a certain price, to buy a stock at a certain price and certain expiration. Okay, a call is the right, but not the obligation, to buy a stock at a certain price and a certain expiration. Now a put is the right, but not the obligation, to sell a stock at a certain price with a certain expiration. So a little bit different in how those are set up. Okay, now when you purchase an option, you're buying control of the stock, but you're not actually buying the stock itself. Okay. At a later date, if you choose to, you can purchase that stock, but for all intents and purposes as option traders, we're not going to do that. Okay, now there are those that can't quite see, well, if you're not buying the stock, how do you control the stock? And so sometimes that's a little bit hazy when it comes to options, but people can understand it a lot of times in a real estate example. So let's say that Aaron C out there in chat, let's say you've got some property for sale, and you've got it listed for $100,000. And I come along, I like the property, and we talk, and I say, Aaron, I want to buy your property from you. I want to pay you full price. I want to pay $100,000. But I don't want to do it for 6 months. And you like that. You think, okay, well, that's a good deal. He's going to pay me full price for this property. I'll get a check in 6 months. So you agree to it. But you also say, well, hey, since I'm taking it off the market for you so you can buy it in 6 months, I want you to pay me a $5,000 non-refundable deposit. And I think that's a good deal. Because in my mind, I'm thinking I can sell that property for a lot more. So we agree. We sign the papers. I pay you $5,000. And now I have control of your property for 6 months, right? And a couple months go by, and I find a buyer who's willing to pay $200,000. So what do I have the right to do? Well, I have control of your property for 6 months, so I have the right to sell your property for $200,000, even though really I put $5,000 down to get it. Okay, so I sell the property for $200,000. I pay Aaron $100,000 plus he got an additional $5,000 up front. Aaron's happy, he made more, and I pocketed $95,000. Okay, it's the same way with stock. If you're buying an option, well, you're saying, all right, I want to buy that stock from whoever sold you the option at a higher price. Checks in the mail, Aaron. Checks in the mail. Same thing, but you're just dealing with stocks. Okay. Now, whenever you buy options, you have to buy them in quantities of one or more, and they're sold in the form of a contract. Okay? Each contract that you buy represents 100 shares of stock. And you can buy as many contracts as you'd like. If you buy one contract, you control 100 shares of stock. If you buy 10 contracts, 1,000, and so forth. Okay. So you can buy as many contracts as you'd like, and they always represent 100 shares of stock. That's across the board. Now, options expire worthless on the third Friday of their expiration month. Okay, and they will expire worthless. Okay, you will get, if you own an option and it's about to expire and it has some value in it, you'll get a notification a lot of times from your brokerage saying, hey, your option's about to expire, and sometimes they'll even close it for you before expiration if you go in the money, and we'll explain what in the money is here. Right? But yeah, if you bought an option and it goes against you and it comes expiration, it's going to be worthless. That's what happens with options if you let them go. Okay. So they're always going to be expiring on the third Friday, and this Friday happens to be the third Friday in November. So this Friday is options expiration day. Okay. Now, whenever you buy an ice cube, it's like, whenever you buy an option, it's like buying an ice cube. Right? If you buy an ice cube, think about it. You buy a big block of ice and you hold it in your hands. What happens? Well, it starts to shrink, right? It's kind of the same way with an option. And for an option, that's called time decay. It's part of the Black-Scholes formula, time decay. And so the longer you hold on to an option, the less you have. Now, this is easily made up for when the stock price moves, which boosts the option price. Okay, but there is that factor. And going into about the last week and a half of expiration is where time decay will pick up a little bit. And it doesn't stop on weekends. It goes right through the weekends as well. Okay, but again, it's easily made up for, but it becomes the factor as you get really close to expiration, time decay will increase. Okay. Now, options are available in specific months at specific prices. And these prices are called strike prices. And so I'm here in a virtual trade account. This is a virtual trade account with Options Express. I chose this account because because it's easily read. Okay, and now let's look at Tesoro. Now again, this is a virtual trade. We're going to make a virtual trade here. This is not a live trade for the challenge or anything like that. This is just for training purposes. And we're looking at Tesoro. We looked at it last night. It was one of the top 3 picks we did yesterday, and it's doing pretty well this morning, the stock itself. Okay. But let's go in and explain these option chains. So remember, options are available in specific months at specific prices. Okay. Now, for Tesoro here, right here are the specific months. So we got November, and notice it says November 13 and then December 13th. Those are not dates. That's not November 13th. Okay, that is the month and the year. Remember that. It's always the month and the year. Now, this does not have them, but you will find stocks that have weekly options that expire every Friday. And some stocks will have just one weekly option listed that'll expire the coming Friday. Some will have several that it might expire this Friday, and then one the next Friday, and then one the next Friday, and things like that. Weekly options, you will notice like it'll say like a November and then WK, or it'll say November and it will have a date next to it. You'll always have the year as the last number listed. This does not have weeklies. So we got December, January, and then you start getting into next year. And then you also go out here to even January 15 and 16, a couple years out. These are called leaps. Now, a leap is just basically a long-term option. And you can buy yourself as much time as you like in an option. I mean, let's say that we really like Tesoro and we want to take full advantage of this for years to come. We could go out and buy options till January of 2016, a couple years out, if you wanted to. We're not going to do that here at Trader Minute. The more time you buy yourselves, In an option trade, the more expensive those options will be, but you can sell at any time. If we bought a leap for January of 2016 and the stock goes up big time tomorrow, we can sell it tomorrow if we want. We could sell it next week. It doesn't mean we can't sell it and have to hold on to it until that point. It just means we can hold on to it till that point, but we can sell it anywhere along the way. Okay, so those are what are called leaps. Typically here at Trader Minute, we're going to be buying near-term options. Near-term options. Now, not this near term, so if we bought November options, you can see that they've got just 3 days till they expire. Typically, we're not going to do that here. We're going to buy December options right at a time like this. So we're going to buy what's called near-term options. It can be current month, or it can be the next month, depending on how close we are till expiration within the current month. Now, the months till expiration are going to vary from stock to stock. Tesoro here, fairly heavily traded. It's got a lot of months. Some of the stocks that don't get a lot of volume on their stocks, during the day, usually their options are going to have light volume as well, and you're going to have less months till expiration. You're going to have less strike prices and things like that. Okay, now, so those are the different months till expiration, and again, they can vary from company to company. Tesoro's got quite a few strike prices on it. I'm just going to scroll down. I want to try to keep this in play here. Okay. So those are the current months till expiration, and then the prices. These are the specific prices that the options are available in. Then they're called strike prices. And strike prices never change. All right, the stock price will change, the option price will change, but the strike prices are set in stone. There's no changing strike prices. And strike prices are basically where you're saying that you'd like to be able to buy the stock at a later date. All right. Now, when it comes to strike prices, they can vary from $1 between the strikes, $2.50. Sometimes you see $1.50, $5 on some of the higher prices. Apple, $500, and Google, $700 stocks. They used to be trading at $10 between strike prices. Quite a few months ago, they pushed those to $5 between the strike prices. The strike prices are going to vary from stock to stock. Okay, so whenever we're buying options, you're going to hear a couple terms. You're going to hear one that's called in the money, ITM. And then you're going to hear a term that's called out of the money, OTM, as these are abbreviated. Now there's another term called at the money. Okay, and the term at the money is simply when the stock price and the strike price happen to be the same. The money is basically the stock price. Now for this reason, right here at the top, you got strike prices. The stock's current price right up here at the top. Because when you're determining whether a strike is in the money or out of the money, you take the stock's current price and compare it to the strike prices. So for calls, the in the money strike prices are all the strike prices below the stock's current price. So here's the stock's current price. It's $52.11. Well, all the strike prices above $52.11 are considered out of the money, and all the ones below that number there, the $52.11, are considered in the money. So the in the money strikes are all the strike prices below the stock's current price for the calls. The next term, out of the money, put it down here below. Excuse my writing with my mouse. Out of the money are all the strike prices above the stock's current price for calls. Okay, now normally here at Trader Minute, we're going to be buying 1 to 2 strikes in the money. It's a little bit more conservative to buy in the money strikes. You have what they call intrinsic value. Okay. Intrinsic value is simply the amount that the strike price is in the money. So right now the stock's trading at 52.11. Well, if we go $2, to go 2 strikes in the money here at the 51.5s, we have some intrinsic value there. And if I just hover over this, the intrinsic value right here, you can see just off to the left there, it says is 61 cents. That's basically the difference between where the stock price currently is and the strike price that I'm looking at, 61 cents. So this is saying that this has 61 cents of value here. So if we bought here at the 51.5s, that means we have the right to be able to sell the stock at 51.5. To buy the stock at 51.5 if we happen to exercise the options. Okay, for the puts, it's kind of the opposite. It's just the same thing, but a little bit differently, because with puts, remember, we want the stock price to go down. So for the puts, the out of the money strikes are the strike prices below the stock's current price. And the in the money strikes are the strike prices above the stock's current price for puts. And same thing, Trader Minute, we're normally going to be buying 1 to 2 strike prices in the money for the most part. Okay, it's a little bit more conservative. You have some intrinsic value built. The options tend to be priced a little bit better. Now later on, we're going to get into option pricing in one of the other classes that we're going to be doing a little bit later this week, and determining their risk reward. Okay, and again, the last one was at the money. Now let's go through this information along the top here. So right up here we have what's called the last. And the last is simply the last price that the option sold for. So if we go down here at the 51.5s and look at the last here, $1.72 was the last price one of the options sold for. Okay, so that tells me there hasn't been one bought in here for a little while. Okay. The next one here is the change. That's the amount that the option price has changed so far today. So today it's up 88 cents. Okay, then we have what's called a couple things here called the bid and the ask. The bid and the ask. Now you always buy on the ask and sell on the bid. So if we wanted to buy here at the 51.5s, we're going to be paying $1.25. That's the ask price. Now it's pretty easy to remember which one that you got to buy at because it's always the more expensive of the two. And is it just me? I mean, when I go shopping, when I find something I want, it's always the most expensive thing. It's the same thing here with options. Okay, not that much more as far as between the bid and the ask for the most part. Okay, here you have what they call the spread. So it's always buy on the ask and sell. Great question, NASCAR. Yes. You always buy on the ask, sell at the bid. Now there's just a 4-cent spread here. 4-cent spread. You can try to negotiate there with pennies. To me, I'm okay with a 4-cent spread. I mean, you could put it in there for 123, 124. Yeah, you probably get it. If you don't, then what's it? It's just a few cents. Now, sometimes you're going to find bigger spreads. You might find 10 cents, 15, 20 cents on some of the lighter traded stocks out there. You can try to negotiate there. Typically with Trader Minute, we're going to be buying options that have a pretty tight spread, because the spreads can loosen and they can widen depending on the volume that starts coming through. So we go with the tighter spreads. Now the spread there goes to the market maker. That's lining up. If we wanted to go out here and buy some calls here at the 51.5s, and we buy for 125, well, the market maker is going to pick up 4 cents off us per share. Okay. So always buy at the ask and sell at the bid for options. Now that's the same for puts. The exact same for puts. It's buy on the ask, sell to bid. puts, we'd be looking down, maybe to go down in this range if we were happen to be buying puts. We may want to come down here to the $53 strike if we're going to buy puts, a couple strikes in the money, and we'd be buying here at the ask price. Now I get the question from time to time, and this can be a little bit confusing for new option investors, is, hey, if the stock's going down, how come the put's not going down? Okay, I mean, do you buy put differently? Do you buy it at the bid price? Because you're selling a put? No, whenever you're buying a put, if you think the stock's going to go down based on your analysis, you buy a put. Because remember, with a put, you're buying the right to, but not the obligation to sell the stock at a certain price and certain expiration. So if we bought here at the $53 stock price, what we're buying is the right to be able to sell that stock, even though it's trading at 52. We're buying the right to be able to sell it at 53. So there's some value there because we can sell it at a higher price. So as the stock price falls, the value of the puts will increase. Okay. So it's still buying the ask, selling the bid. If you get into a trade, and we're going to get into a trade here in just a minute, when you get back out of these trades, so you buy a put, when you get back out, you sell it. You sell it at the bid price. Okay. All right, now the last couple things here on the option chains. You got the volume. Now the volume, this is today volume in the form of contracts. Okay, and then you have what's called the OPINT. That stands for open interest. And the open interest is the amount of contracts that investors have bought and are still holding on to. They're still active, they're still in force. So here at the 51.5 strike, there's still 241 contracts that are sitting in investors' accounts somewhere. You look up the chain here a little bit here, and here you got 3,800, 6,900. A lot of buyers and sellers out in this range. All right, so let's say we're going to go make a trade. And and we're not, again, this is not any type of a live trade. This is a virtual trade we're making just for this training. Let's say we like Tesoro. Okay, so we sent out an email that we just bought 10 contracts got to change the month here. So now we're going to be looking at December. So let's just say that we sent out we bought 10 contracts at the $49 strike price. So you're going to get an email from us and it will say something like buying 10 contracts Tesoro, the $49 strike for December, and we're paying $475. Okay. So what you would do now, option chains are not all going to be identical to this, where you got yellow shaded areas for in the money options and white areas for out of the money options. Options are going to vary. Thinkorswim, it's black and charcoal. Other services, it's going to vary, but they're going to be very, very similar to this. The look can be a little bit different, but they're going to be almost identical. Okay. So if I were to make that trade right now, and I was going to follow along, then I would come out here and I'd find the ask price, I find the strike price, and I simply click on the ask. This is how most brokerages work. Again, yours might vary slightly, but this is how most of them work. I just click the ask price. Now I look at this and I see I got a 10-cent spread here. I might be able to negotiate a little bit there. When I say to negotiate, what we do is just use a limit order and put a limit order out there at about 470. Kind of split the difference here between the bid and the ask. So I'm just going to click the ask. Okay, so this will bring up a virtual options order form, and it's going to have the chain up here. So I got the December. Remember, that's not December 13th. That's the third Friday in December of 2013. That's the month and the year. Got December $49 calls. Okay, that's what I need to know. And if that matched the email that we sent out, then you got the right one. Now, if you happen to mess up, then change it. Go through and you can change it. Okay. Now, one of the number one mistakes that new investors will make is forgetting to check that month. They get in kind of a hurry and they go out and they forget to change the month, and then they make the trade, and then they have options that expire in 3 days. The worst example I ever remember was a guy that that I was working with at the time. He went out and made an option trade, didn't check the date of expiration, didn't change the date till expiration, and he bought options that expired the same day, and he got burned. So always remember to check that month and make sure you got the right one. All right, so we'd be buying December $13, December 13, $49 calls, and this would be buy to open. Now, if it was a put, it's still buy to open. Okay, calls or puts, buy to open. All right, the quantity. Now, this is the number of contracts. So this is in contract form. Occasionally, I've seen newcomers think, hey, I want to control 500 shares. That's 5 contracts. That must be 500. So they put like a 500 in the quantity, which means they're buying 500 contracts. It's not the case. If we're buying 10 contracts, we're going to say we're buying 10 contracts. We're not going to mention how many shares we're controlling. Okay, but it is controlling 1,000 shares if we're buying 10 contracts, but we're not going to worry about that. Okay, now I got a limit order here, and what you can do, most services are going to have a little box where you can see current prices. And the current prices, you know, we got a bid and the ask here. The bid's at 470, the ask is 480. If I threw this limit order out there, it's going to split the difference. Now, this is a virtual trading program. It's probably only going to fill at 480. So if I wanted to get this, I'm just going to move this to 480. So I just click over here and move that to 480. If I'm really in a hurry and I don't want to have time to try to dicker between the bid and the ask, 5 cents here, 5 cents there, I can just throw a market order out there. You might pay a little bit more for it, but you're going to get it. It's pretty much a guarantee. It's going to go through in seconds if you throw a market order out there. So you can play around with these. I'm just going to throw a limit order out there at 480. There's day orders and things like this. We're not going to worry about that. When we make a trade, we're going to make it that day. Okay, so I'm just going to refresh this one more time. I don't want to have to sit out there. I'm going to preview this order, and your services are going to have a preview order to where you get one last chance to make sure you're doing the right thing. So double check. Quantity, we're buying 10. The symbol, we're buying TSO. December, $49 calls. December, $49 calls. This is at a limit order at 480. It's going out. Now your broker is going to charge commissions, and it's going to vary from broker to broker. And I'll place that order. Check the status here, and I got filled. So the fill price I got here on this was $475. Okay. And when you see that we paid, because I've had some questions come in about this, where we say we paid $475, and then questions come in saying, it's not at $475. Should I still get it? Hey, if it's $480, $485, if it's $460, $465, you're getting at a better price. If it's lower than ours, if it's slightly higher than ours, typically it's not a big deal. Really, if you go 10 to 20 cents higher, 10 to 20 cents lower, when we're expecting a move, we're expecting a pretty decent move, and the option prices are gonna go up for you when that happens. Okay, worrying about a nickel here and a nickel there is really not that big of a deal. Okay, so that's our class here on basic options. If you have any questions, feel free to contact us at Trader Minute. Have a great day, and we'll talk to you in the next class. Thank you. Bye-bye.